Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you and to discuss what we've been doing at EG Innovations for the last 18 months or so. So this is the agenda for today. We'll start with a brief overview of where the company has been, what we've been doing over the last 18 months. I'll mention some of our key customer wins over the last couple of years so you can get a feel for the key areas where we're winning against competition and why customers choose our solutions. Talk briefly about our partner engagement model so you understand what different partners around the globe are doing with our solutions. And we'll spend the bulk of our time today looking at product evolution. In particular, we'll focus on our new version 7.1. So we'll discuss its key capabilities, why we came up with these key capabilities, and how you can use it to present newer capabilities to your customers. So let's start with a quick update on EG Innovations. As you very well know, we're a worldwide company. We've been in existence since 2001. Our global headquarters is Singapore, and our funding comes from the Singapore government. So we've been looking at the performance monitoring space for over 19 years now. And you'll see how our product has evolved as I walk through how we've adapted to different trends ongoing in the industry. Some key features about our company. We're not a fly-by-night company. We're not one of those new US-based companies that spends tons of money in the hope that they get acquired by somebody. We've been in this for the long run. We've remained profitable for several years. Our growth has been organic. We are currently present across the globe. And in the last year, we expanded our global presence to cover Brazil in Latin America, Germany in Europe, and Australia in APAC. We have over 200 employees around the globe with growth in research and development. We've invested heavily in R&D. Over half our staff work on R&D projects, looking at new capabilities we need to bring to the table. Our customers are fairly marquee names that you might be familiar with. If you've followed us, you'll know that eBay uses our solutions to support a Citrix environment with over 15,000 users across the globe. You'll find a video testimonial from them on our website if you haven't seen that already. Other key customers listed here include BBVA. They've been using us for a large Citrix deployment covering Spain and now expanding out into Latin America. Samsung, who uses us to monitor their ERP systems across the globe. And several other names, Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, their entire banking infrastructure being based on our solutions. Staples, a new win for us, using us for remote access to their environment and so on. Our customer retention rate is over 90%. Our product sales are typically very sticky. You land in an account, usually we find that customers stay with us for 10 years plus. Some have been with us for 15 years plus. So the typical usage, as our customers get used to our software, they tend to grow its use within the enterprise. So from a partner perspective, my message here will be land and expand. Land in an account focusing on a gap, and then you can see that we've successfully expanded out to other parts of the customer environment over time. So as we talk about customers, there are 4 key wins that I want to highlight. First and foremost is KBZ Bank in Myanmar. Myanmar in Asia Pacific is one of the weakest economies. Until 2011, they were under military rule. Their economy liberalized in 2011. KBZ Bank is their largest bank in Myanmar. With the liberalization, the bank aims to be the bank of the future. They're looking at other banks around the globe and saying, I want to become one of the leading banks. So they were undertaking an initiative saying they wanted to set up a next generation network operations center. They wanted to be more proactive, more service oriented, more automated. They already had a number of tools in place. They looked internally. They were using a lot of freeware. And the first tool that they checked as they wanted to make, they were mainly monitoring infrastructure. They wanted to start to monitor applications. They evaluated App Dynamics, now part of Cisco. App Dynamics gave them great application level insights. What it didn't give them was insights into the infrastructure. So they found that they needed more than one tool to set up the network operations center. A second problem was them with App Dynamics was cost. App Dynamics for their infrastructure would have cost them over $5 million. Now we were able to show to them that we could do all of what they wanted at 1/7 the cost of an App Dynamics. So we are currently in the midst of deploying monitoring for their infrastructure, covering about 12 plus mission critical services, everything from core banking, mobile banking, retail banking, corporate banking, branch connectivity, ATM connectivity. So we're looking at it end to end. They're really using our solution as a single pane of glass, something they can get a handle on their entire application and infrastructure around. My second client I want to highlight is EY, Ernst & Young. Well-known brand, have been using, they have a large infrastructure deployed internally. They also host infrastructures for clients who need them to provide services. They had no dearth of monitoring tools. You look for any kind of tool, they had it internally. Again, another client that had App Dynamics. The gap they had was App Dynamics was good, but too expensive to cover their whole infrastructure. So they had App Dynamics installed for some portions of their applications. Their environment was heavily heterogeneous. Lots of databases, lots of web servers, Java, Citrix, whole bunch of applications that they needed monitoring for. App Dynamics was selectively being used in their environment. We did a proof of concept with them where we demonstrated that we could do most of what App Dynamics could do, but cover the other application infrastructure in a much better manner. Also, the fact that the E&Y team working with us had experience with EG in other organizations before really helped us score this win. E&Y is currently deploying us worldwide to support their environment internally. We're not the only tool that they're going to use, but we're going to be an integral part of their application monitoring environment. So another point that I want to highlight here is not only is our sales sticky, we also have some very, very loyal customers. People who like our tool, use it very well, and when they move organizations, they're interested in using the tool again. So that has been another key reason why we were able to win over EY, because we had a lot of credibility built in from our previous efforts with this customer. My third customer to highlight is Nokia. Nokia has tens of thousands of applications deployed across the world. Their requirement was purely synthetic monitoring. They needed an external perspective of their applications to know if the applications are performing well or not. They were not looking for full-blown end-to-end monitoring. They just needed to make sure their applications were meeting the service level agreements or that they were responsible for. They had over 50 locations in the world from where they needed to monitor this environment. Their incumbent tool was Dynatrace. Dynatrace was doing a good job for them, except Dynatrace decided to discontinue their synthetic monitoring capabilities for a number of reasons. That was the opportunity for us to get in. So we worked with HCL, which is the outsource provider supporting Nokia, to deploy synthetic monitoring from 50 locations around the globe to monitor their critical applications. Applications that include SAP, Citrix, web applications, client-server applications, the whole hog, synthetic monitoring for those. My final customer success story here is Singapore Health. IHIS is a part of Singapore Health. Now you might have, if you followed the news, a year ago, Singapore Health was in the news because the Singapore Prime Minister's health records were hacked. That was around the time we started working with IHIS. They were looking for more robust monitoring so that they could know if there was unusual activity within their environment. Also know if Singapore is trying to be ahead of the curve to make sure they're giving best medical coverage to their citizens. And so they were looking for a tool to replace Idera's Uptime. The solution in place was Uptime software from Idera. Now they were mainly using Idera for infrastructure, wanted to go beyond the infrastructure to support the applications. We have currently EG Enterprise deployed there for over 5,000 servers, monitoring some of their core applications that they are covering for their customers. My overall message in giving you these 4 customer success stories, many of you know EG Innovations as a Citrix monitoring tool vendor. And the point I want to make is it's not just Citrix anymore for us. Many of our wins are coming in areas that go well beyond Citrix. Now, if you look at our 4 main use cases for our products, digital workspaces, which is Citrix, VMware Horizon, or workspaces in the cloud, is our use case number 1. This is where we've spent a lot of R&D cycles, worked with a number of clients, have a wealth of experience in this space. And although we have known for our work with Citrix, over the years, we've bridged the gap with VMware Horizon as well. So we support VMware Horizon technologies almost as well as Citrix technologies. Our second use case is application performance monitoring. People deploying web applications. Web applications could be custom applications that they've deployed internally, could be HR systems, could be any type of internal application that they're using that is web-based. Or it could be off-the-shelf applications with front-end web services. Today, many vendors are starting to web-enable their applications. So our monitoring capabilities for Java and Microsoft.NET can help you get a handle on application performance monitoring for web apps. Our third use case, and I briefly mentioned this when I spoke about Samsung, is to look at enterprise applications. Very few of you probably know that we are SAP certified vendor. We've worked with SAP for over 10 years now. Our solutions plug in very well to the SAP suite. That's just one example of the type of enterprise applications we support. We also support other applications in this category, PeopleSoft, Siebel. More recently, we've turned our focus towards Office 365. You'll hear more about what we bring to the table for Office 365 as we go through this presentation. Our final use case is unified monitoring. Unified monitoring is targeted at our small and medium business customers who are trying to grow out of tools like Manage Engine and SolarWinds. When they were small, they invested $5,000, $10,000 in these tools. As their environment has increased, their number of servers has increased, they've added storage, they've added other pieces to the infrastructure. They're finding that their investment in monitoring tools, even with a SolarWinds or a Manage Engine, is not $5,000 anymore. They're having to buy many, many modules to give them complete coverage. What we bring to the table is a single pane of glass from where they can monitor network, server, storage, virtualization, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the 4 main use cases that our technologies are being adopted for by customers. If you look at the triggers for a sale, when do customers need EG Enterprise? You'll find that the primary reason people start looking for a monitoring tool is when they have pain. My application is slow. That's when people start to look for a tool. Often that is very reactive. You've already sunk all your money in the infrastructure. Now, where there are better opportunities to sell to customers is when there is change in the environment. When a customer is deploying a new project, to me, selling monitoring is like selling insurance. Think of the best time for selling insurance: when you're about to buy a house, when you're about to buy a car. Now, the same thing applies for a monitoring tool. Look for places where there is change. Customers starting to deploy new infrastructures, new applications. Customers starting to upgrade a version of application, where there is a project, there's money involved, customers moving to the cloud. So these are situations where there is change in the environment and opportunities to embed a monitoring tool as part of this project. Now, requirements for a monitoring tool can also come from management. Recently, we had a customer where they had a compliance report that said they're not compliant. They're really not taking care of their best applications very well. They're forced to look for a monitoring tool to address compliance requirements. Same thing for SLAs. You want to be able to provide SLAs. So that is another case where our tool might apply. Now, these triggers are not some things that we, EG Innovations, are plugged into. You, the partners, are closer to your customers. You probably understand them very well. You know what projects are coming on. So we rely on you partners to find these triggers in organizations and bring us in at the right time. Timing is a big deal when it comes to selling monitoring solutions. So our partner network today spans about 50 plus countries. We have presence in about 7-8 countries around the world. So we're dependent on partners for everything that is related to customer support. So partners provide different services around our products. Many of you are involved in customer onboarding, doing the basic installation, support, training, etc. But there are also other areas where you can offer value-added services to your customers. And I'm going to pick on a few partner use cases that might trigger some new thoughts in you regarding services that you could bring to the table. Some partners even function as an extended part of our team. And I'm going to show you some examples where we have partners who are doing pre-sales, post-sales, pretty much helping us 360 degrees. We don't have the bandwidth. We're a small company, and our focus really needs to be on our research and development. We're not in the business of actually sitting with a customer for months to deliver services for them. And that's really where, again, we rely on partners to own that part of the puzzle. I mentioned land and expand, and that's a very important concept to keep in mind. When you go to a customer, you don't have to look at their entire infrastructure. Look for a gap. With E&Y, the gap was AppDynamics was not fulfilling their entire application monitoring needs. With KBZ Bank, the gap was they needed something automated for their network operations center. So look for gaps that you can address with our tool set. Start small and expand. We've had a number of customers who've started with single-digit count in terms of agents, who've grown to thousands of agents within a few years. So this model really works for us. So here are 5 examples of partners and what they're doing differently with us. First one I want to highlight is Atos. Probably a number of you from Atos here. Atos has chosen EG Enterprise as part of their reference architecture for virtual apps and virtual desktops deployment. So our solution is bundled in as an integral part of their offering for customers. Customers are not buying EG Innovation software. Customers are buying services and capabilities from Atos. Our solutions are baked into Atos offerings. So that's my use case number 1. The second partner I want to highlight is EG Solutions. EG Solutions, based in New Zealand, their entire business model works on our solutions. They're essentially an extended part of our team. They take care of pre-sales support, post-sales implementation, follow-up support, all of the above. Dicion is a DaaS provider, desktop as a service provider. They're in the business of providing desktops to customers. They embed our solutions as part of every single desktop that is sold to their customers. Again, customers don't buy EG Innovations as a service. They buy desktop as a service. Our software gets baked into their solution set. The last 2 use cases are interesting. Terrylogy, based in Japan. They've been a long-time partner of ours. They were initially trying to sell our products, and it was very hard. It took them a long time to get customers. They found out that there was a new opportunity in a different space. they started offering monitoring as a service for their customers. But they specialized that offering to focus on just one aspect, user experience monitoring. They offered synthetic monitoring to customers to say, I can tell you what is your logon time. I can tell you if your service is available or not. And their initial sale to a customer would be a couple of $100 a month, couple of licenses, very easy to get into accounts. What they found was, number one, once they showed you what the logon time was, you would immediately want to know why. And they could actually offer and service after that to say, okay, expand out. Here's what I can bring to the table. So the barrier to entry was a couple of $100. Very simple for somebody to sign up and get started. And they found that once they started talking to 15, 20 customers and bringing them on board, one of these customers would actually become a full-blown sale for them, hundreds of thousands of dollars or more. So that is a very interesting use case of a partner who specialized in one area and has grown their business beyond that area. Our final use case is TimeGate Software in Korea. TimeGate Solutions are a reseller of ours. Now, they don't just take our products, deliver it to their customers. Korean customers expect to see fancy dashboards. They have requirements completely different from what we've seen across the world. TimeGate has dedicated a set of developers to build dashboards using on top of our products. So what they're delivering to the customer is really not just EG innovations, but EG innovations plus some specialized dashboards tailored for their local market that make customers believe this is a solution that meets their needs, rather than just an off-the-shelf product that they're delivering to their customers. So these are just 5 examples of ways in which different partners are value adding using our products. Now, I've spent quite a bit of time talking about the company, how we work with partners and how we work with customers. I'm going to switch gears and talk about the product now. So let's talk about what EG Enterprise is focused on. Now, as we looked at what are the top challenges, trends and challenges, we picked a number of statistics here. For each of those statistics, I'm going to translate this into what it means from a performance monitoring angle. So 73% of businesses are experiencing productivity loss due to slow application performance. Essentially, what it says is user experience is growing in importance. 98% of user experience issues are caused by problems in several places in the environment. And what this means is you need to be looking at every layer, every tier of the environment to be able to figure out where your problems are coming from. Now, 98% of organizations say that a single hour of downtime costs over $100,000. Time is money. So rapid problem diagnosis saves organizations money. 65% of companies are using more than 10 monitoring tools. It's unified monitoring that provides, people want to minimize the number of tool sets they have. They want unified monitoring. Even if I can't have one console, can I have 2 or 3 instead of 20? That's really what they're after. Now, over 35% of IT professionals feel they have too many tools and dashboards. People don't want to have yet another tool set. So they want to minimize the number of tools that they need to have in the organization, that they need to deal with. And finally, IT teams are spending 46 hours per month in war room scenarios, troubleshooting problems. So problem diagnosis, when you do diagnosis, you don't want all your experts being pulled into a room. You want even your non-experts to do some troubleshooting. Many organizations are still relying on their key people, the experts, to do firefighting. So organizations want to minimize that. Can I have my level 1 help desk do basic triage? So these are some of the trends and challenges that we've seen in the market that we've taken into account as we've looked at how our product needs to evolve. So fundamentally, in all the use cases that I spoke about, the basic issue that we're trying to solve is what I call as today's toughest IT performance issue. Performance monitoring today is not about monitoring CPU, memory, or disk. It used to be the case 20 years ago. Today, performance monitoring is about addressing today's toughest IT performance issue, which is, why is my app slow? Now, whichever use case you're talking about, the problem is the same. We're not talking about 4 different products targeted at the 4 different use cases I mentioned. In the Citrix world, the problem is, why is Citrix slow? In the SAP world, the problem is, why is SAP slow? So the problem statement is the same, irrespective of the use cases that I mentioned before. And what EG Enterprise tries to do is to address this problem. Why is my application slow? All the capabilities we embed into our tools are geared towards addressing this issue. How can I help you troubleshoot when the user says, why is my app slow? So this is a quick peek at how our solution set has evolved. We basically started off as a unified monitoring tool, something that could provide insights into your network, server, storage, etc. We started looking at the challenges that thin client computing and Citrix brought together in 2004-2005 timeframe. We jumped onto the virtualization bandwagon in 2007-8 when we started with VMware. We started looking at the challenges that cloud computing introduced in 2014. We added application performance monitoring capabilities in 2016. In 2019, as we talk about EG Enterprise version 7.1, a central theme that has come about is user experience monitoring. It's not about the IT organization anymore. The success of IT initiatives today is dependent on the end user. If you deploy Citrix and your user finds it unacceptable, it doesn't matter if your CPU is good or your memory is good. Your IT project is in trouble. So it's all about the user experience. And I will discuss as I go into version 7 what we mean by user experience monitoring, what are the different elements that come together, and what are the capabilities we've brought to the table. Now, EG Enterprise today, not just an infrastructure monitoring tool. If you go to the market, there are tools that do a good job with the infrastructure. They don't look at the application. There are other tools that are very good at the application that don't look at the infrastructure. EG Enterprise today is what I call a converged application and infrastructure monitoring solution. You had hyperconvergence in the server world, server network computing all together. What we've done with EG Enterprise over the years, we've converged performance monitoring. We brought application and infrastructure monitoring together. And you'll see from the slides and the demos today that we're not just putting these capabilities onto the same console, we're actually tying them together with intelligence and automation. So we can help you answer today's toughest IT performance issue, which is, why is my application slow? So converged application and infrastructure monitoring essentially gives you that single tool from where you can get deep insights into both your infrastructure and your applications. Now, just a couple of points regarding our application performance monitoring strategy. We're very happy that earlier this year, a leading industry analyst, German analyst, Research and Action, actually rated us as one of the top 10 continuous application performance monitoring vendors. We also have reviews of our customers on Gartner's Peer Insights website. As of today, this statistic is from May. As of today, there are actually 43 independent reviews on Gartner's website. And if you go check that out, you'll find that our average rating is about 4.7. We're probably the highest in satisfaction rating from customers in the top 20 vendors in the application performance monitoring and in the infrastructure monitoring category. Over the last year, we've also won several awards for our work with Citrix and application performance monitoring in particular. We were a Best of Synergy finalist in the digital workspace category at Synergy 2019. So with that quick background, let me start to talk about EG Enterprise 7.1, which is our latest product release. Now, before I go into the different features that the product has, I want to give you a snapshot into what goes into defining a new version of our products. How do we build a new release? We take a lot of inputs. Our inputs come from both within as well as from external sources. So we analyze the market opportunities. Our research teams are scouting to see what are the areas where we should be investing in future products. We also gather feedback from customers. Over 50% of the enhancements that go into our products come from feedback from customers. Because customers are using our products. They know what are the pains they see when they use our products. We take that very seriously. Over 50% of the enhancements that go into our products in every release come from feedback we get from customers. We also track industry evolution, opportunities that may come about, new trends that may happen. Couple of years is a long time. So many different technologies might come out. So those are things we look into. We also look at gaps in our portfolio. What are the areas? Why do we lose an account? What is the weakness of our products compared to others? We also look at our competitive positioning. Areas that we're doing well in, we need to do better in the future. So those are some of the inputs that we take when we build a new release. We also have to take into account technology challenges that happen. And technology challenges can be varied. Microsoft introduced Windows Server 2019. We need to take that into account. Microsoft has recently introduced Windows Virtual Desktop. We need to take that into account. There are new application versions being introduced. Oracle introduced a new version of their database. We need to support it. Applications change protocols. Citrix moved from version 6 to version 7. The default protocol in their products changed. It was still HDX, but instead of running over TCP, it runs over UDP. Big difference. We need to adapt to it. New acquisitions by tech vendors. Acquisitions are happening all the time. Citrix acquires a couple of companies. VMware acquires companies. SAP brings in new products. We need to make sure within a matter of months, we'll have customers asking us, can you monitor this new product that they've acquired? New deployment models. 2 years ago, we were dealing with Citrix where everything was done in the cloud. Today, both Citrix and VMware Horizon are pushing customers to go to the cloud. New deployment models pose challenges. We need to look at how we support our products in the new cloud world. So these are some of the challenges, changes that we take into account as we look at new product releases. We also look at many of the trends that you had seen before. Organizations want to minimize tool sets. IT teams want to do more with less. They don't want to staff with more people. Their experts are few. We need to embed more intelligence in our products so that we don't require our experts spending more time with our solutions. Ease of deployment is becoming very, very important, both for you and for us. You want to spend minimum time deploying our solutions. We want to spend minimum time deploying our solutions. So we've made changes with respect to ease of deployment. Customers, cloud used to be a buzzword 5 years ago. Today, it's no longer a buzzword. It's reality. So we're looking seriously, and we've done a lot of modifications around how we monitor the cloud and how we monitor applications in the cloud. Ultimately, focus on user experience has been a key theme that underlines many of the changes that we brought to the table with version 7. Before I get into version 7 in detail, I just want to highlight one central theme of our solutions, and that is domain expertise. Many times I hear people say, you've got an agent, somebody else has got an agent. It's like saying, imagine, look at a Mercedes car and a Hyundai car. Both have engines, right? An agent is the same way. We have an agent, my competitor has an agent. Now, what the agent does is what matters. How well can a car move? So what we've tried to do is not just, many times monitoring vendors will just look at APIs exposed by the vendor. Citrix gives you some APIs, everybody will report the same type of metrics. Now that is something that we do occasionally, but our focus is to go beyond what the vendors themselves provide. We start with what are the failure modes of the application? What does a customer want to see about a particular application? So we start with the problem, what do you want to monitor, rather than what APIs are available? The answers may be very different. We go seeking answers to the question. So we work with experts in the field. We are connected to many of the Citrix CTPs. We get feedback from them. We work with experts to understand how to monitor each application. We embed that technology within our products. So my message to you is not every agent is the same. Domain expertise. While I talk about 4 use cases, in the Citrix use case, we probably have the 20 most key metrics any Citrix administrator would want to see. In the SAP world, we do exactly the same. The 20 metrics for SAP will not be the 20 metrics for Citrix. So you need to appeal to every single administrator who's out there and their domain expertise. So we spend a lot of time understanding the domain before we build products for that domain. So the paradigm shift we've seen in the industry is this move from resource monitoring to user experience monitoring. It isn't enough anymore to look at your CPU, memory, disk metrics. It isn't enough anymore to just say up or down. You need to go beyond that to say, what is the user experience for my applications? There may not even be one metric for user experience. If you look at Citrix, user experience may mean logon time, it may mean application launch time, it may mean screen refresh latency. So there are multiple metrics of user experience that you have to take together. Now, user experience can have a big impact. I'm not going to go into every single one of these statistics, but essentially the problem is when the application is slow, if your application is business critical, it's going to impact your business. So user experience is something that your CIOs are going to be interested in. Resource monitoring is something that your system administrators are going to be interested in. By making the shift from resource monitoring to user experience monitoring, you're elevating your pitch to appeal to the CIOs of the world. Now, what does user experience monitoring entail? User experience monitoring requires you to monitor the experience that you're giving to your users. What are they seeing? How much response time are they getting? So monitor it synthetically and with real users. Now, once you know what your user experience is, the next question is going to be why? Why is it slow? To answer that question, you need to go and monitor everything that the application touches. So that's my point number 2. My point number 3 is once you collect data from every layer, every tier, you could be flooded with data. Monitoring becomes a big data problem. You need the monitoring software to analyze and correlate and tell you where is the root cause. What metrics do you care about? So that is my point number 3. Point number 4 is the use of a monitoring tool is not just for diagnosis. Because you're collecting so much data, you can make intelligent decisions. Decisions around how to optimize, how to plan better, etc. So a complete user experience monitoring solution is one that is going to cover all 4 of these areas. All 4, if you actually think about it, user experience monitoring for Citrix requires all 4 areas. User experience monitoring for Office 365 requires you to cover all 4 areas. Same thing for SAP, same thing for VMware Horizon, same thing for any web app. So EG Enterprise 7.1 is intended towards giving you 360-degree visibility into user experience. All of these 4 areas. And we'll talk about how we were doing a lot of this before. This is not brand new. We have been doing user experience monitoring before. We've been monitoring every layer, every tier before. I'm going to show you how with version 7, we've enhanced our solution to provide complete user experience monitoring, covering each of these aspects in more detail. Typically, our release cycle is we do minor releases every 6 months. We do a major release once every 18 months. EG Enterprise 7.1 took us a lot longer to put together. And the main reason for this is we had to overhaul the engine that our solution was using. We were previously using Tomcat version 6. We've moved to version 9, which is the latest. Gives you a lot of scale, gives you a lot of security benefits. We've done the same thing with Java. The underlying Java virtual machine we were using before in our previous version was version 1.7. We've gone from there to version 12, which is near the latest. So it gives you a lot of scalability benefits, a lot of security benefits, and a whole bunch of years working on this release. Some of the areas we've worked on are highlighted with tick marks here. We expect to have minor updates to this version over the next, what our future roadmap is, and some of the areas that we expect to address towards the end of my presentation. So let's get into version 7.1 and the different capabilities it brings to the table. We'll start by looking at each of these use cases, because the kinds of capabilities required for Citrix may be different from the capabilities I need for Java, will be different from the capabilities I need for unified monitoring. So let's look at digital workspaces first. A lot has changed from Citrix version 6 to version 7. First and foremost, the name has changed. What used to be called Zen App is called Virtual Apps. What used to be called Zen Desktop is Virtual Desktops. In addition to the name, there have been a number of changes. The underlying protocol has changed. The underlying monitoring tool built into the framework has changed. The architecture itself is very different. Without going into the details, you can see that there has been a whole host of changes. And Citrix has made acquisitions. They've added new capabilities. And there are a number of these new deployment models, new protocols. I alluded to this before. Now, many vendors continue to use what they use for monitoring version 6 in the newer version. That means they haven't added any new capabilities, but for version 7 as compared to version 6. Now, we are a strong believer that monitoring needs to evolve as the underlying technology changes. Now, let me take the analogy of the mobile world. We had mobile phones before. We had 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. Your mobile instrument continues to change. And when it changes, the apps that you use on your mobile also change. You're not using the same apps today that you did with your 2G device. Same way, as your infrastructure and application technology evolves, the monitoring technology needs to evolve as well. So you must consider what we believe that for version 7 of Citrix, you need to look for technologies that have incorporated the newer capabilities that their products have. So let's talk a little bit about what these are and how we address them. So if we look at Citrix Monitoring and EG Enterprise version 7, you should very well be aware that EG Enterprise has a logon simulator. It's a purpose-built tool that simulates user logons to Citrix, VMware Horizon, desktops in the cloud. Now, this logon simulator has been expanded in this release. We have many customers who are deploying newer authentication mechanisms with Citrix. Two-factor authentication, Azure Connect, Azure AD. Okay. So we have Okta for their authentication. So we've incorporated support for many of these security mechanisms in the logon simulator. Another new capability that we brought to the table is to capture screenshots. When the logon fails, your logon failed between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Now it's working fine. You come to the office, you're saying, I don't think it failed because I think it's working fine now. If we can take a screenshot, we can show you exactly what happened. So we've extended our logon simulator to take screenshots when performance issues happen. We've also added a new user experience metric called user input delay. Windows 2019 and latest versions of Windows 10 now give you the ability to monitor the time from when the user clicked on an application to when the application started to load. That is the delay at the operating system level in processing an application. It's an important metric because if that latency is high for a specific application, maybe the DLL it's using is taking time to load. So this is something that we've added into our release to give you more insights into how long it takes when a user clicks on an application before that application loads up. We've also added new visualizations in the product. I'll zoom into each of these in my next couple of slides. Why is this important? Because we're trying to make it easier for the Citrix admin to visually see where is the problem in your environment. Now on this screen, I've zoomed into a particular user session. The user is D. Carroll. You look at the graphic here is showing the topology graph. It shows what XenApp server is this user on, which controller is this user connecting to, which storefront is this user on, and the health of these different devices. So why is this helpful? Because you can quickly see what is the flow that the user is connecting through. If there was a problem in a storefront that was impacting user experience, you can very quickly from here say it's a storefront problem that's impacting the user. So visually, this is a very appealing concept that gives the administrator insights into what are the applications that the user session is touching. Second enhancement. In the Citrix world, people always believe the problem is in the network. Users connecting from different places having performance issues, but you can't see it visually. So what we've tried to do now is create a geographic map where you can see where are users coming from, which countries are they coming from. And based on the user experience, we can color code the countries. So you can see from here very quickly, users from the United States are green, which means their latency is good. But when I look at users coming in from the UK, they're not seeing as good an experience as the users from the United States. That helps you troubleshoot problems quickly. So that's another visualization that we've added to our solution. Citrix introduced in version 7, Workspace Environment Manager. Workspace Environment Manager makes your logon time faster. Previously, all the work had to be done while you were logging in. Now with Workspace Environment Manager, you do a limited amount of work up front. A lot of the work happens after the user has actually logged into their session. Now, this hides logon time from the user. The user might feel happy that they logged in faster. But when they access the resource won't be there. So it's still a problem from a user experience standpoint. If you're just looking at logon time will be good. You can be happy, but you will have user complaints because what you've done is just transferred the problem from logon to after the logon process begins. So we've added capabilities to look at what processing is happening in when, how long it's taking, so we can alert you to situations where when is slowing down. Now, this is not something that Citrix's own built-in tool is capturing today. So you can't find this metric in Citrix Director today. App layering is another concept that Citrix introduced. Rather than having one monolithic system, you can have now layers of disks. A disk for the OS, a disk for Microsoft Office applications, another disk for another application, and so on. Now, layering is good, but if layering doesn't work, you need to know which layer didn't work. You need to know how long it took for each layer to load. And if you're not aware of app layering, you might not even capture the issue. So somebody might use your tool, he might not even detect that there is slowness being seen by the user. So version 7, we've made our products app layering aware. So it can see if app layering is working, it can see if the app layering server is working. Again, something that Citrix Director does not support with our products. We've also added new monitoring capabilities for new Citrix elements. So there is a new recording server that Citrix introduced to record Citrix sessions. We can monitor that server and see how many sessions it's recorded and what is the storage used and so on. SD-WAN is another component that we support today. An important component of the NetScaler family. We support SD-WAN access. We can monitor it. We can report on it. We also can monitor Citrix Cloud to almost the same level we can do with an on-premise environment. Most vendors for Citrix today will support Citrix deployments on-premise. There are very few vendors that look at Citrix Cloud. We support today Citrix Cloud almost to the same extent that we do Citrix on-premise. That means if you've got your Citrix hosted in the cloud, we can still give you a breakdown of logon times. We can track who's accessing your environment, what applications for access, the same capabilities we can offer, irrespective of whether you're on-premise or in the cloud. We've also added deeper insights to support every minor release of Citrix products. Citrix adds new capabilities. We've kept pace with those capabilities. We support the latest Citrix release, and we have added enhancements for monitoring Citrix ADC, which is the new NetScaler, Citrix Delivery Controller, and even the Citrix Hypervisor today. Another thing that we do, many of you know that we have tons of reports built into our tool. The top 20 reports that any Citrix administrator wants available out of the box in the tool. However, these reports were not easy for an administrator to find. Often you may have to click on 3 reports before you can find the report that you really care about. Now, what we've done with our tool now is to create a dashboard that shows a snippet of each report. By looking at the dashboard, you decide which report do you want to get deeper into, and from there you go to the real report. So this makes navigation for you a lot faster, so you get to the report that you need. Finally, we're trying to make our tool more intelligent. Not just about diagnosis. A lot of times customers come to us and say the area of work we need help with is capacity planning. So we've looked at virtual apps and very closely. Here's an example of a capacity planning report. On the right-hand side, if you see on the top left-hand side, we're saying how many more sessions can each of my servers support. So based on current workload, we are showing you the number of additional sessions that each server in your environment can support. The bar graph that you see on the second panel shows you which servers and how many additional sessions they can support. So you can see which servers have more capacity, which servers don't have more capacity. And towards the bottom of that report, you can actually see the total workload in terms of how many more sessions you can support with your current environment. So session usage versus prediction, without adding any more capacity, how many more sessions can I support? Now, same way we can highlight which servers are bottlenecked by what resource. So how many of your servers are bottlenecked by CPU? How many are bottlenecked by memory? How many are bottlenecked by network? So in this example, you can see 6 of my servers are bottlenecked by memory. So our recommendation will be, here are the 6 servers, go add more memory. And we can actually tell you, if you add 8 GB of memory or 12 GB of memory to each of your servers, how many more sessions are you likely to support? So we're giving you recommendations in terms of what you need to do to accommodate other users. Same way, we also have a forecasting report where if you use the slider and you say, I want to increase the load that I'm putting on my environment, how many more servers do I need to add in my environment? So the blue box on the right-hand side is giving you the answer. If you increase my load by X%, how many more servers do I have to add to my environment to support this workload? All of this allows you to make intelligent decisions from a Citrix standpoint. Okay, I'm not going to go into this in detail, but I just want to highlight that we provide today probably the broadest and the deepest visibility into the Citrix workspace stack than anybody else out there. Citrix version 7 introduced a lot of new features. With EG Enterprise version 7, we've tried to make it something that accommodates and manages the Citrix version 7 environment as best as possible. So the marriage between EG Enterprise 7 and Citrix version 7 is almost a perfect one. Now, my takeaways from here are 5. EG Enterprise today is the most complete Citrix user experience monitoring solution you'll find in the market for any Citrix deployment. We are the only third-party vendor that can support Citrix Cloud. We're also the only vendor that today can claim to be truly Citrix 7.x ready. Looks at the newer protocols, looks at all the newer features that Citrix has added and supports them out of the box. While I've spoken about Citrix, we support VMware Horizon equally well. And I'm going to have one slide where I talk about what we do for Horizon. So you can actually, we see a number of customers who are actually trying to use a mix of Citrix and Horizon, or even move from Citrix to Horizon. We can support all of their needs before and after the move. We also offer licensing flexibility. Most other vendors of monitoring tools will allow you to license by users. We allow you to license by users or by servers. If you're getting a low density, license by users. If you're getting a high density, license by servers. That can actually make the monitoring tool more economical for you. And finally, I want to add that EG Enterprise now supports a fully SaaS platform that you can take and deploy out in the cloud. I'm going to get into what we offer for SaaS towards the end of my presentation, but this could be particularly useful if you're working with Citrix customers where you don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting to deploy the tool. The tool comes with auto discovery, auto management, so you just plug and play the tool in a Citrix environment, you can be up and running in no time. So this was EG Enterprise for Citrix. Now, VMware Horizon, the story is almost exactly the same. Horizon, by the way, also moved to version 7 around the same time frame. And they had a huge shift in their architecture as well. The story is the same. There are so many different new elements that VMware Horizon introduced. And EG Enterprise has added support for all of these new components that version 7 introduced out of the box. So we are almost on par with Citrix with respect to VMware Horizon on-prem. We don't yet support VMware Horizon on the cloud. That is a growing use case for VMware Horizon. We will be supporting Horizon on the cloud in the near future. So that is my first use case in a lot of detail. Now let's move to the second use case, application performance monitoring for web and Java applications. Now, when you do performance monitoring, there are two ways to measure user experience, synthetic and real users. Synthetic monitoring means you're recording a script, playing it back, etc. Now we've added a new tool to our portfolio called the Web App Simulation Module. Now what is this? From a simulation standpoint, there are 4 levels of simulation that we support within our products. First is protocol simulation. You do a HTTP GET, you do a ping, you're checking at the protocol level whether things work or not. That was supported long time back. We had custom built logon simulators for Citrix, VMware, Exchange, etc. already. Now we also had the capability to do full session simulation with a third-party product that we integrated with called Itexus. Some of you may have used that tool before. Now the advantage with the full session simulation was it can support any type of user interaction. It can support thick clients, thin clients, doesn't matter. The difficulty with full session simulation was it took a long time to set up. You had to get it right. It used image recognition technology. Now we felt that full session simulation with Itexus was great, but it was really a use case targeted at Citrix and EDI and thick clients. When it comes to web clients, it was too heavy. we could do better than that. So we have built our own synthetic monitoring engine. We call it the web app simulation engine for web applications. If your use case is web applications, you want to check a sequence of click-throughs, you can do that far more easily, far more cost effectively with our web app simulation module. So this is a sequence of clicks that I'm simulating for a web application. Our recording engine, basically you give a URL and you click the record button. When you click the record button, you start to browse in a browser. As you do your browsing, we will automatically record the URLs that you're visiting, and then we will record it as a script that is replayed again. So this is something that is truly cutting down our time from, it took us almost a day to record a script with our previous recording engine. We can do script recording in minutes now. So it's cutting down the time that you will spend, that we will spend recording and simulating for web applications. Now, bear in mind that the use case is different. We are not really saying we will get rid of the recording capability of iTexas, because it was still useful for thick clients, thin clients, and for web applications alone, the web app simulation tool gives you a good alternative. This graphic that you see on the screen is new. This is the result of web app simulations shown on the screen. You see the different steps that are involved in web app simulation. You can see the exact step that is failing. You click on the camera icon next to the X mark. You can actually see a screenshot of the failed transaction. The transaction may have failed at 2 o'clock. We can still save and bring you the screenshot so you know why the transaction failed and you can take action on it. So this is the web app simulation module. We've also added new capabilities to our real user monitoring capability. Real user monitoring was based on JavaScript injection. We would give you a small piece of JavaScript code that was downloaded on the client browser and triggered, helped us monitor, very similar to how Google Analytics works. Now, enhancements in this release focus on new visualizations, deeper analysis of page load times, support for applications that are called single page apps, where the URL doesn't change. There's a category of applications like that, modern apps, where the URL remains the same, but the underlying application is doing work. So we can support that as well. We've added a number of new reports as well to help our customers better analyze the data that they're collecting with real user monitoring. So quick screenshots of how this works. This is a new dashboard that we've built for real user monitoring. The top panels are actually should be familiar to you from our previous version. The center panel on the left-hand side is new. Previously, you had to click on drill down to every single transaction to see what's going on. Here, with a bird's eye view, we are telling you how your application as a whole is functioning. You can see how many page views came from desktops, how many page views came from tablets, how many came from mobile devices, what is the time spent on the browser, what is the time spent on the server, how much time is spent on the network. Quickly looking at this, you can figure out who to blame. Is it a server issue? Is it a network issue? Is it a client issue? Where is the problem? So we're trying to avoid the number of click-throughs that you had to go through to figure out what was actually going on. We've also now, over 2 years, browsers have become better. We use the browser as a way to collect data. Your browser is the one rendering your page. Browser APIs give us a lot more detail. You might not be aware, but there is a limitation of 6 requests from your browser at any point in time to a web page. So when you access, I don't know, dailytelegraph.co.uk, you can send only 6 requests at any point in time. The 7th request is waiting in the browser for the 6 requests that you sent to finish and come back. Now, what we've done is captured that as a browser wait time. So you can see when response time is slow, where is the bottleneck? Is it because of browser wait time? Is it because of caching on my browser? Is it really because of rendering? So we're able to give you more insights into where time is being spent by the application. Also look at the resource details tab. This tab is telling you when I click on a page, what other resources are downloaded by the page. So for instance, you can see a list of resources being downloaded when I access a page. Now this can help you troubleshoot problems. If you're seeing a lot of CSS and JavaScript pages being downloaded again and again, it might point to an issue that you have with your application. Maybe browser should typically be caching JavaScripts. If you're seeing a lot of JavaScript pages being downloaded again and again, browser caching is not working. Go and investigate why browser caching is not working. By fixing that issue, you can actually make your application go several times faster. We've also added support for Ajax. Modern applications use a technology called Ajax, where the web page looks static. There is actually work running in the background to go get the data that is required and render it on the page. When you have Ajax pages, real user monitoring before was not aware of it. Now our real user monitoring also supports Ajax pages on for real user monitoring support. We've added reporting, and on the reporting front, our goal is to have non-experts use the tool. In previous versions, our reports would give you a lot of data. Now, what we've tried to do is to draw intelligent conclusions in our reports by ourselves. So look at the colored icons. We're actually telling you details about that. You don't have to look at the data. You don't have to look at the numbers that are shown on the screen. Just focus on the colorings on the text, which say that the average page load time was normal. The 9% of hits resulted in frustrated user experience. 91% resulted in tolerating experience. So we're giving you insights in English that you can easily interpret from. We are also giving you here recommendations. The blue box that you see below the figure is actually our recommendation, which says the performance of browser, in this case, the performance of your server network content browser are within limits. You don't have to guess. You don't have to be an expert anymore. Our reports are going towards being prescriptive, where we can help you figure out what is normal, what is abnormal in your environment. We've also created reports to slice and dice the data. A lot of times customers come to us and say, I want to look at a visitor journey. I want to see one user and see where they're heading and what they're doing. With our tool, now you can create reports from where you can see where did a user go, what all did they do. So you can search by user. If you look on the left-hand side, you can see that you can search by a client IP. You can search by particular pages. You can also search by which requests have been slow. So capabilities that you can use if you're generating a report for a customer who's asking for a certain set of questions, these reports will come in very handy. Finally, another thing that we've changed is we've integrated real user monitoring and transaction tracing. In the past, these were two different technologies that we used. Now, you can actually go from real user monitoring to looking in depth into a transaction, like an X-ray. So what we've done on the left-hand side is look at one particular request, see where it's spending time. You can see that 7,000 milliseconds was spent on the server side. Click on the server side icon. You can automatically see a topology map that shows more details on where this time was spent. So rather than guessing, you can actually look at that same transaction with real user monitoring and with transaction tracing. We've also added new support. With Java, we've added support for other technologies that Java communicates with. We've also done the same for Microsoft.NET. We've added support for Azure App Services, which is an important use case. We've also added deeper visibility. We had visibility into the Java JVM before. We've added visibility into Microsoft.NET CLR now. From a platform supported standpoint, we also have support for PHP and Node.js. So if your website was PHP based, we can give you more details into code level visibility. So in summary, EG Enterprise for APM, our value proposition here is that we are extremely cost efficient. We license by operating systems. We don't license by JVMs or CLRs. This was one reason in one of my use cases I said we priced 1/7 that of App Dynamics. That's simply because of our licensing model. Our value proposition with APM is that we don't just give you insights into the application code, we tie together application performance with infrastructure performance. And our synthetic and real user monitoring capabilities can be used for any type of application, whether it is Java, .NET, PHP, or even any COTS application. Now, let's quickly switch to the other two use cases. Talking about enterprise applications, I want to focus on Office 365, an emerging use case in most enterprises. Almost everybody these days is using Office 365. Yet, if you look at how they monitor it, they're depending on Microsoft to tell them how to monitor it. Microsoft posts status updates on their Office 365 page. Look at any of the Office 365 forums, and you'll find that these status updates are grossly insufficient to monitor performance. Microsoft is looking at their whole host of tens of thousands of servers that they're hosting. They're not looking at your account. They're not looking at your performance. Now, your users are not measuring you by what Microsoft is seeing. They're measuring you by what performance they're getting. So monitoring Office 365 is a gap today. As we talk about land and expand, Office 365 may not be tons of licenses that you can sell, but it's a land opportunity in accounts. Every time I speak to a customer and I bring Office 365 up, it excites them. What can you do with it? Customers are at a point where they don't know what they want. So it's an opportunity for you to be ahead of the curve, to position a solution for monitoring Office 365. Customers have gold standards for how to monitor databases, networks, storage, etc. There is no gold standard today for how to monitor Office 365. That is the opportunity for us. What we bring to the table with Office 365 is three things. We can help you monitor user experience. We monitor it using a combination of synthetic and real user monitoring. We'll get into the details of this in the sales and the technical sessions. Now, with Office 365, there is always a chance that your network could be a problem. We are a user of Office 365 ourselves. When we moved to Office 365, within a month, we found that our bandwidth usage had tripled because everybody is now connecting over the internet to Office 365. So you need to be monitoring your network connectivity to Office 365 to see if it's working or not. Users may complain that Office 365 is slow when they could have an update running on their device. So you need to monitor the pieces of the infrastructure you control to be able to determine, is it really a cloud problem or is it my problem? Now, finally, there are also usage situations that you need to be aware of. You might have, every user gets 2 gigabytes of storage with OneDrive. Now, a user goes in and stores all their files, uses up their OneDrive. They're going to call you and say, I can't save my file in OneDrive anymore. By monitoring it, you can determine users who are locked out, users who are sending too many mail messages, users who are using their quota in terms of mail storage, in terms of OneDrive storage, etc. So these are some of the examples of what you can do with Office 365 monitoring. We've got support for most of the core Office 365 services built into our tool. Monitoring of the Office 365 client, monitoring of Exchange Online, SharePoint Online. We've added support for Microsoft Teams, OneDrive for Business, Skype Online. We've got new dashboards that make it easier than ever before to analyze the performance of each of these areas. Looking at other enterprise applications, a key focus area for us has been SAP. Why SAP? Because they've been constantly adding to their landscape. And if you talk about mission critical applications, SAP obviously stands out as one of the most important applications you can run into with businesses. So we've added support for many of the newer applications in the SAP stack. SAP Hybris, SAP Business One, which is their small business solution, and SAP Fiori. We've also tried to make it easier for an SAP administrator to manage the environment. Based on our feedback from our SAP clients, we've built dashboards that make it easy for an SAP administrator to quantify where is their performance bottleneck. So if you look at this graphic here, you're looking at different processing. The time latency, 23 seconds was the server response time for an SAP transaction. Look at how much time was spent in each phase. You can easily see the bottleneck is actually the database. So in this case, you shouldn't even be talking to your SAP guy. You should be getting your database administrator to do their job better. So this is where visualization helps. Now, from a unified monitoring perspective, we've added a lot of new capabilities, many new applications, many new infrastructure elements, part of this release. The things that I want to point out are support for Docker and Kubernetes. Container environments are growing. Rather than installing applications standalone, people are starting to deploy Docker and Kubernetes. Stand up a container, put your app inside a container, let multiple containers run together. That's really where most of my customers are headed. So Docker and Kubernetes monitoring support is now available with version 7.1. On the application stack, we've tried to go after big data applications and modern applications. Hadoop and Cassandra, big data applications where customers are starting to say, I'm running into performance issues. So we brought out monitoring solutions for those applications as part of our solution set. Now, no discussion these days can be complete without a reference to the cloud. So that's my mandatory slide on cloud. Look on the left-hand side, and you'll see the number of AWS services that we are monitoring today. That list keeps on growing because every day AWS adds something or the other to their service, to the number of services that they offer. One of the interesting things that we did was for a customer, where the customer had deployed AWS auto-scaling. Auto-scaling is essentially a way in which, as your load increases, you can bring up a new instance. With our tool, we've integrated it with AWS auto-scaling for this customer. So every time an instance comes up, we auto-discover that instance, auto-manage that application automatically into our tool. And when that instance gets removed, we delete that instance from our tool. So we brought automation in, so they don't have to be involved. Auto-scaling may bring up an instance at 2 a.m. in the morning. It may remove an instance at 4 a.m. in the morning. So between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., automatically my instance comes up. It is monitored by EG. At 4 a.m., the instance is removed from EG. So that's something that we brought in. That is something that we're going to be doing more and more of as we go forward. I'm going to briefly touch on DevOps. DevOps is a methodology that goes hand in hand with containers, where people are saying, I want my development teams and operations teams to work more closely with each other. There is a whole tool set that is involved in a DevOps chain. We've started to monitor some of those tools within our portfolio. So we have today monitoring support for some of the tools that I've listed on the left-hand side that are an integral part of any customer's DevOps journey. So the basic idea is you might actually build, you might write your application, you might build your application, you might deploy your application and then test it. In each of those phases, by monitoring these tools, we can tell you, did your build succeed? Did your deployment succeed, etc. In future, we plan to be able to merge these two with performance. So we can say, you did a new build on such and such a day, and your performance actually started to degrade at that point. So we can correlate performance changes with build changes. That is not available today, but that's the direction in which we're heading from a product standpoint. The last thing I want to bring up is our SaaS deployment models. We've tried to make with version 7 our solution fully multi-tenant. EG Enterprise 6.3 was multi-tenant in the sense that you could create different views for different customers. However, when a customer wanted to add a server, they had to come to you, the managed service provider. If you wanted the customer to remove a server, they had to come to you. With version 7, we made it fully multi-tenant. Customers can be given rights. You can create a customer and say, you have 10 licenses, go have fun. The customer can add whatever applications they want, they can remove whatever applications they want. We've also made it possible for users to self-register. So they can automatically sign up from your site, get registered, get access, and they can download their agents. Instead of downloading a generic agent, now a customer can download an agent that has an ID associated with them. When they download that agent on a Citrix server, the Citrix server is auto-discovered, it's auto-managed in the tool, and auto-assigned to that customer. So work that used to take you 15 minutes per server is now going to be non-existent. So it means that you can be fully automated. Your deployments can actually happen in a much faster time frame. So these are some of the capabilities that we will discuss with you over the few upcoming sessions. The user interface for the administration module has changed to support it. It's much more user-friendly. You can decide what you want to discover. You get simple recommendations in terms of what you need to do next. You can download agents from the management server itself. You get help, which says what is next. So we're trying to walk you through a guided process for administration. So you don't need to really get trained on the tool. You can start using the tool without undergoing any training class from us. So what you can also see is that any user of our system will now have the rights to do a number of the things that were previously only possible for administrators. At the same time, we use role-based access. So if you feel you don't want to give these capabilities to any user, you can take those off as well. Customers have demanded that our application, which is part of the many applications they support, abide to the same security standards that their internal applications abide to. So we've spent a lot of time looking at security. Our management console now supports two-factor authentication. Our management console now supports single sign-on using SAML. Also, we have included all the basic OWASP type of protection mechanisms that customers expect any enterprise class application to have built out of the box. So you can get yourself certified by SSL Labs easily for your cloud deployments and get an A+ using the best certificates that we've built into our tool. We've also tried to make dashboards very simple. In the past, you could create custom dashboards. However, creating a dashboard took time. In this version, where we've come with predefined templates. So you can just choose a template, instantiate a version. If you like it, you can create a custom template. If you create one on one system, you can actually export it and import it on another system. So that way you can move your favorite dashboards from one deployment to another. We've also taken baby steps to allow you to generate your own reports. In the past, reports used to be configurable, but if you wanted to build a brand new report, you had to come to us. We've tried to make, with this version, we've got a report builder in, where simple reports you can create yourself without having to come to us. We've also added a kiosk mode for our interface. That means if you're setting it up on a big screen, you want different schemes of the product to show up, you can select which screens need to show up. How long should be the gap? Think of it as a PowerPoint slideshow mode, where you set a timer between different screens. So you can actually choose which screens you want to see on the dashboard, and you can have those played in sequence on the dashboard. We also added integrations to many other products within our stack. Again, all intended towards ensuring that whichever means of help desk system or ticketing system customers are using, we will integrate with them. So I just want to end by saying we've added a whole host of features in this version. I've tried to touch upon some of the key aspects that we've introduced in this release. My key takeaways for you, the partners, are three things. Focus on user experience, not resources. That's what gathers interest from the C-level executives. Find a gap. Don't just go in and say, I have a Me Too tool with a lot of functionality. Focus our success has always hinged on finding a gap. and positioning our tool as a solution for that gap. No matter how small it is, it might be Office 365 with 6 servers, that's fine. That's a way to get in. History has shown us that land and expand is a model that works well for our tool. So that's something that you can use. Timing is extremely important with respect to monitoring sales. You have to find customers at the time where they have new projects initiated. That is extremely important. So be plugged into your customers and look for opportunities where you might find an opportunity to bake in a solution as part of a refresh that they're doing on their infrastructure or a new project that they may have. So in conclusion, with version 7, we brought a lot of capabilities that go into making what we call as a complete user experience monitoring solution. This software is available now for download. You can test it out. We are not making upgrades of the product available yet. It will take us about 3 months before we can make the upgrades ready. But if you want to use it for your POCs, you want to deploy it for your customers, you're more than happy to try it. It's already available on our website, and you can get access through your support teams. Finally, we're not done yet. 2020 is a moving target for us. There are lots of areas where we think capabilities that we are looking to. We were hoping to build some of these within the 7.1 timeframe. Unfortunately, given the bandwidth that we have and the priorities we had, we couldn't get to all of these. So these are some of the areas where we think where you should expect us to innovate. Some of these are in various stages of development. Some will roll out faster than others. So you should see minor releases of our product come through almost every quarter next year. That's pretty much what I have for you today. I hope this was a good use of your time. I'll be happy to take any questions if you have now, or if you want to break off and talk to me offline, that's fine too. Thank you.
One question to your staff. I mean, we are working together quite a long time. I remember when it was small at start, which was large, to make great new functionalities. How is it organized and how big is the staff now for the development?
So we are about, development alone is about 100 people. Support and services additional. So if you can look at each of our areas, Citrix, for instance, we probably have about 20 developers looking into various aspects of Citrix. Same thing with web application development is almost as difficult. So, and a lot of our challenges are also about coping up with older technologies and newer technologies. We still have customers asking us for support for Windows 2003. Right? So we have to keep going as far back as we can, and at the same time making sure that the moment Microsoft Server 2019 was out, we had customers asking for support for that. So we need to cater to both ends of the spectrum, and that's probably part of the challenges that we have to deal with.
You see the steps you have made with new version, big steps for the future.